Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. We live in a backwards world, man. What has happened to our values? It seems like we don't have them anymore. We don't have societal standards. We can't stand up as a collective society and agree on basic rights and wrongs. We have so many grifters who want to play devil's advocate, who want to be special little snowflakes, who just want to use very tragic, sensitive issues to put themselves in the spotlight, who just make it impossible to land in a place of common sense. And a case like this is a perfect example. The Jordan Neely, Daniel Penny situation. It's one of those ethical conundrums where we should be able to come together as a society and collectively say that Daniel Penny is a hero. He did the right thing. He stood up to protect women and children. But instead, you have all of these horrible grifters, these progressive AOC types who have flipped the script, twisted the situation, twisted the scenario to paint Daniel Penny as a violent, racist criminal, a murderer, and Jordan Neely as an innocent black victim. This right here is why we can't have nice things. It's Kyle Rittenhouse version 2.0, where the Democrats rallied to protect two pedos, let's really put it into perspective, and demonize and slander Kyle Rittenhouse as a mass shooter, a perpetrator with racist intent. Well, Daniel Penny just released a public statement, the first ever, and I know I keep saying it, but it really puts it into perspective. It puts all of this into perspective. He's clearly a good kid. I want to show you guys that clip and then let's have a conversation about the current social dynamic. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, we all have the backstory. We've covered this story extensively. You guys know what's going on. Let's take a look at this newly released video where Daniel Penny explains the entire altercation, his thought process, and what happened.
East Village in Manhattan, so I take the subway multiple times a day. In this instance, I was coming from school. I got out of class around 2:15. And I took I was at J Street Metro Tech, took the Uptown F train. At 2nd Avenue, a man came on, stumbled on, appeared to be on drugs. The doors closed and he ripped his jacket off and threw it at the people sitting down to my left. I was listening to music at the time and he was yelling, so I took my headphones out to hear what he was yelling. And the three main threats that he repeated over and over was, "I'm gonna kill you, I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die." You know, this was a scary situation, and Mr. Neely came on. He was threatening. I'm 6'2", and he was taller than me, so it was. And there's a common misconception that Marines don't get scared. We're actually taught one of our core values is courage, and courage is not the absence of fear, but how you handle fear. And you know, I was scared for myself, but I looked around, I saw women and children. He was yelling in their faces, saying these threats. I couldn't just sit still. Some people say that I was holding on to Mr. Neely for 15 minutes. This is not true. I mean, between stops is only a couple minutes. So the whole interaction lasted less than 5 minutes. Some people say I was trying to choke him to death, which is also not true. I was trying to restrain him. You can see in the video, there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he's breathing. I'm trying to restrain him from him being able to carry out the threats. And then some people say that this was about race, which is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't see a black man threatening passengers. I saw a man threatening passengers, a lot of whom were people of color. The man who helped restrain Mr. Neely was a person of color. And then a few days after the incident, I read in the papers that a woman of color came out and called me a hero. I don't believe that I'm a hero, but she was one of those people that I was trying to protect. We were all scared. Mr. Neely was yelling in these passengers' faces, and they looked terrified. The reason why there was no video at the start of the altercation was because people were too afraid getting away from him, and the videos didn't start until they saw that situation was under control. I knew I had to act. And I acted in a way that would protect the other passengers, protect myself, and protect Mr. Neely. I used this hold to restrain him, and I did this by leaving my hand on top of his head to control his body. You can see in the video there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he was still breathing. And I'm calibrating my grip based on the force that he's exerting. And I was trying to keep him on the ground until the police came. I was praying that the police would come and take this situation over. I didn't want to be put in that situation, but I couldn't just sit still and let him carry out these threats.
What do you think the leftist reaction here is? Daniel Penny is just using his white privilege to paint himself as the victim, another sob story from a white criminal. That is what the leftoids are saying, and it's of course as predictable as ever. They did the same thing with Kyle Rittenhouse when he broke down, telling the series of events while taking the stand in court. They claimed Kyle Rittenhouse was just taking advantage of his white privilege, once again, white crocodile tears, to paint himself as the victim. They did the same thing with the New York City bike nurse situation, calling her a Karen, using crocodile tears, paint herself as the victim, and demonize the group of young black children. And you know, some people might be inclined to believe this leftist narrative, this leftist framing of Daniel Penny in this situation, but pretty much a good chunk of the altercation was recorded, not to mention all the witnesses present on the subway during that day who have made public statements clearly stating that Daniel Penny is a hero. It's as clear as day, and anybody with a working moral compass should instantly be able to recognize this fact. He looks like a good kid. In fact, I'd even argue he looks like a great kid. Also looks like a typical New Yorker. You know, he's probably a Democrat voter who bought into all the social crap, all the social justice narratives. And now look what happens. You stand up and do the right thing to protect women and children, and they sacrifice you. The moment they can use you for their precious victim narrative, they'll sacrifice you, they'll throw you to the wolves. They're flying around in circles, like I always say, like a group of vultures, waiting to take advantage of the next situation. I find it so incredibly frustrating, but most importantly, it's deeply, deeply unethical. You have these leftoids who paint themselves as the moral authority on every issue, the compassionate ones, the pillars of virtue and ethics. But let's have a conversation about what ethics even means. You know, real questions of ethics tend to have a lot of gray area, tend to be kind of difficult. From a leftoid perspective, ethics has become binary. From a leftoid perspective, ethics is marginalized group, victim, let me promote their social activism, I'm an ally, ethics achieved. Achievement unlocked. I've done my good work in society for the month. I posted my tweet. I'm an ethical person. But that's not ethics. That's lame, empty, cringe virtue signaling, pushing whatever the leftist narrative, the mantra is of the month. Real ethics is looking at something like this Jordan Neely situation and taking a bold, ethical stance. Real morals, real ethics is standing up for the right thing when it seems inconvenient, when it seems difficult, when there's actual nuance. And having the inability to stand by this young man shows the moral rot of our society. The fact that we can't come together and condemn criminality, condemn violent terroristic threats, and stand by the person who had the courage to do something about it shows you how twisted modern ideology is. The same kind of ideology that paints violent criminals as victims, that tries to argue that, how can I say this, adult offenders who prey on minors are victims and should be treated with respect or given leniency. That is a lost society. That is a falling society. We lack courage and conviction, and the losers in New York City who run the justice system there, who prosecuted this young man at the call of these leftist race grifters, you should be ashamed of yourself. But of course, in order to experience shame, you have to be a real human being with the ability to actually feel emotion and feel shame. We know that that's not the case. But anyways, I don't want to keep going in on this issue. Clearly, Daniel Penny's a good kid. He's a hero. He did the right thing. All charges should be immediately dropped. That's my personal view. I think it's a waste of time, a waste of taxpayer resources. If a jury of even New York Democrats finds this man guilty, I would be in utter shock. And again, it'd be a sign of a falling and collapsing society with deteriorating moral values. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Of course, you know that we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.